But let's talk about a Proposition 30, which many of you have seen. Now, I don't usually like to get things political, but I also like to bring things up that can affect California because it affects a lot of people. There's a tax for millionaires for electric vehicle programs by Prop 30. And when I initially saw this, I was like, okay, it's taxing clearly the rich, right? Prop 30 would impose a 1.75% personal income tax increase on the top earning Californians for the share of their income above $2 million per year to fund a suite of climate programs. The goal is to clean up the state's dirty air and help meet ambitious greenhouse gas reductions. So on one end, I'm like, okay, this sounds pretty reasonable or pretty fair. Let's give back some and help these other initiatives like greenhouse gas. So most of the money, about 80%, would go towards rebates for people buying zero emission cars and build more charging stations. Half of that funding will go to low and middle income residents who are affected by poor air quality and heavy pollution. The state already spends millions each year on zero emission vehicle programs and dedicating an additional $10 billion in the next 5 years to those programs in the year's budget. And this will go into effect 2023 and end in 2043 and slash emissions to at least 80%. So initially, when I saw this, I was like, okay, this is pretty good. It sounds right. Now, there is that initiative that California has, right, of that mandate of all electric vehicle sales need to be certain. I forget the exact year, but there's that initiative that they all have to transition to electric vehicle by a certain year. Oh, look, it's 2035. So what's interesting, though, the state will also require Lyft and Uber drivers by 2030 to log 90% of their miles in electric vehicles, right? So you can see when you see this, you're like, okay, this is interesting. Some of these businesses, their business model will completely change because now they have mandates of what Lyft and Uber needs to do. So then when one gets digging into it, then the question is, hold on, who's actually supporting this? And you can see Lyft supports for climate tax. How much did Lyft? So initially, Lyft did a huge proposal on this to get donations for it. And initially, there was a crazy big number. Let me see. And support 95% coming from the rideshare company. $48 million has been raised in support of the proposition. So if you actually look at the numbers, 48 million was raised in the support of the proposition, with 95% coming from Lyft. So for Lyft, rather than them trying to improve their business model and trying to figure out actual solutions, what they did is they spent 40 something plus $1 million of their money to run these advertising campaigns to not just run it, to create this proposition, but also to run all these advertising campaigns in the hopes that this money can then subsidize their business. That is the wild part altogether, right? But it's, look, if that's the thing, if the companies are able to be involved politically, then they have every right to do so. But the question is, was that actually a good use of shareholder money, especially if they don't get this passed? If they do get it passed, then you can say, wow, that's a brilliant move, sneaky move, but brilliant move. If they don't get it passed, they're going to have a big egg on their forehead, right? Because they're just spent 40 plus million. They're like, what in the world did you just do? You spent $40 million to try to get this passed and it didn't become successful. So make sure you vote, because the votes are due very quickly. In this case, as you can see, what does that mean? Is it really the best interest of California? Is it actually worth taxing these wealthy people because of this? And you actually have a lot of proposition, even for Gavin Newsom and many others that are proposing this. And it's more recently, over the last, I would say, couple of weeks, that you see this ramped up and you see more ad campaigns of people, of them coming out to saying no on this proposition. But this is a very important one for you to make your decision on.